Hello, I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television, inviting you to our election edition of What's Up Missoula. We're going to try to visit with each candidate for the City Council races. There are quite a few this year. There's about 15, and I haven't heard from all of them. But I have heard from Alex Taft, who is running for Ward 3 in a seat being vacated by Stacy Rye, and he is here to answer a set of questions that I've appealed to each of the candidates with. I wanted to mention to you, the viewing audience, about the City Council race. The race is by mail-in ballot. The ballots are going to be mailed out on or before October 24th. If you don't see one and you're disturbed by this, call the elections office, 258-4751. When you get the ballot, you can return it to the elections office in person. You can take it to the courthouse second floor of the annex any time before the deadline, and this is this year, November the 8th at 8 p.m. You can also take it to the county fairgrounds, and you can take it to 7 schools. I'll mention Hellgate Elementary and Lowell Elementary, and I don't know the others. Anyone can deliver ballots to the election office or school drop-off point. Someone else can bring it for you. So, with that prologue, thank you so much, Alex, for coming.
Thank you, Joe.
You're most welcome. So I'm asking everyone the same questions, and I feel they're fairly generic, so they give people plenty of wiggle room to give people an idea of what they're running for. Ward 3, could you tell people basically its geography, so that if they're watching, they're like, oh, is that guy running in my ward?
Right. It's a big square.
Okay.
Bounded on the north by the Clark Fork River, the east by the university, the south by the combination of Woodworth and Kent, just a little bit
it's got
north of
Street
south.
In there.
Yeah. And Russell Street on the west. It's a big square.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty simple.
So here are your questions. What do you think is the most important issue facing the city in the next few years?
Before I answer that, you mentioned Stacy Rye, and I wanted to say thank you to her for her service as city council person.
I've been thinking of that a little myself. You know, how she's going off after.
Right, she has a very difficult job. I think it's 8 years she's been on.
Yeah,
will be as of January.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But she took the directorship of Word, and that's a big responsibility. And so I hope if I'm elected, I can do as well as she did.
To think of her.
Yeah. So I did some thinking on this question. I do have a lot of transportation background, but I think it is a transportation project, the reconstruction of Russell Street. As folks may know, the environmental impact statement for the reconstruction has come out recently. And the next phase after that is design, and then the road is reconstructed. And it's the biggest project biggest road project since Reserve Street. It's a $40 million
oh my goodness
project.
I remember when the Orange Street Bridge was widened, because now we're both in the same neighborhood right next to it.
Right.
That certainly was much on my mind at the turn of the century.
Right, and that was probably just a couple of $1 million for that.
But speaking of that, a lot of people have said, well, and I thought this was delaying the project to a degree, was neighborhood objection. They're saying, well, I don't want to see another Reserve Street out of Russell.
Right. I have heard that a lot. I've worked with a group. We came up with another proposal, this 3+ for Russell, and we've decided to work with the city in the design process. And if I'm elected, I really hope to advocate for a community design process. We don't really want a design that's put together by a couple of engineers in Helena at the MDT.
I do remember a lot of public hearings, in various schools, maybe Franklin School, MCAT covered some of those. And when you mentioned the 3 for Russell, that is a design feature. People hoping to see 2 lanes in opposite directions with a turning lane in the middle, not a 5-lane with 2 like Russell is.
And what we come up with, if it's done properly, there's the so-called charrette process. It's a French word. It actually means the box.
In itself.
Yes, of course, the poor French. But it really means community involvement. Sitting down at a table like this with maps of the street here and people saying, well, I live on this corner and here's the problem here, so let's design that corner this way. So if you combine that with the expertise of the engineers and the planners, you usually come up with a better project than just going in the back room, coming out with sort of the cookie cutter 5-lane street. Maybe we'll come up with 4 lanes. Maybe it will be 5 lanes, but not quite as wide. Maybe there'll be more emphasis for transit so that the buses can get through easily. But it is, to me, the most important issue because of the cost involved and really the effect on the city. You know, it's not right downtown, but it's in the growing area. So how are we going to develop that? Are we going to develop it as a city street that has multiple uses, multiple land uses, multiple transportation uses, or is it going to be more of a suburban design? I'm hoping for the former. That's what I've done throughout my career.
Yeah. Okay, great. How do you feel you differ from other candidates in this race for Ward 3?
I have experience, lots of it. I'm an old guy, 67 years old. I spent a 30-year career working for cities. I worked for the mayor of Boston. I ran the transportation department in Wilmington, Delaware. I ran a National Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations in Washington, D.C. with about 400 members throughout the country in almost every major city in the country. I've done I've done consulting work. For instance, downtown's considering changing First and Main from a one-way pair to 2 two-way streets. Well, I did that in Wilmington, Delaware. There's been all these issues of the parking downtown. I worked as a parking management consultant going to cities all over the country, implementing meter programs, parking enforcement, booting programs, all that kind of stuff. So aside from my Navy career, I'm a Vietnam vet. I was a Navy pilot. I've been in city government for a long time.
Yeah. And you're not tired of it, apparently.
No, I'm not tired of it. Actually, I retired in 2004 and then decided to move here. One of the unique things about me is although I've only lived here 7 years, I've observed Missoula for the previous 30 years, having visited here almost annually. My sister Juliet Crump, which a lot of people know in
From
town.
The University Dance Department.
Absolutely. And Bill Beavis, my brother-in-law, was an English professor. And I run into people all the time on the doors saying, "Oh yes, I know your sister."
Yeah.
But I came out and visited for many years and saw Missoula grow from the tough times of the 80s and the better times in the 90s and what we've seen since then. So I feel like I got a fairly good experience of Missoula.
Well, I feel like you've already answered this question, but I don't know. This one was, if elected, what would your primary goal be for the next year?
Well, actually, I'm very impressed with how we've gone back and forth on the neighborhood plans. The West Side plan was then modified, and the hospital and the Safeway deal and all that kind of stuff. And then we have the rattlesnake issue, which seemed to be just the opposite. Though you do have to take the plan into account in how the neighborhood
referring
develops.
To the successful lawsuit brought against the development that was slated for the rattlesnake.
Correct.
And the court upheld the rattlesnake, saying, "Oh, this is not a great sighting."
Well, they said that you have to, the plan, it's not in the plan, and you have to take the plan into account.
Yeah.
Whereas in the West Side neighborhood, they said, well, no, you can modify the plan.
Right.
So I'm really, for my neighborhoods, which are 3, 2 of which I've lived in. I lived in the University District, and now, as you say, I live in Riverfront. Yeah. And also the Rose Park neighborhood. I'd like to look at those neighborhood plans in the next year if I'm elected and update them if they need to be updated. We've had new zoning. We have a new transportation plan that says we should be developing downtown and in town. So, I want to make sure that we've got a good plan in place that meets the requirements of the neighbors.
What should people know about you, in particular, your experience, your background, and your vision? Though I feel like you've done a pretty good job detailing your work with cities and so on.
Well, that's really been my bread and butter. I even sit down weekly with a bunch of folks and talk about transportation issues, just because I love this stuff. And I think it's it is interesting. I'm some things that I've done since here. I'm helping a friend build an airplane. That's sort of a new thing. I haven't had that working with my hands as much. I've been usually working with my head. And I also have gotten some nice endorsements. The mayor has endorsed me. Ron Erickson, who's the state senator from the area for Ward 3, has endorsed me, as has Bob Jaffe, the other Ward 3.
Your potential colleague from Ward 3.
Potential colleague, absolutely. And I was born in New York City and grew up in Connecticut and went to school in the South, so I've really been around the country a lot. Since I've been here in 4 years, I've really enjoyed it, and I've tried to make my retirement have a good portion of service to others in it. I volunteer at the food bank. They then asked me to be on the board. I'm on that board right now. I'm the treasurer of the Five Valleys Audubon here in town, and actually the state Audubon as well. I was on the transit board for a while, and so I've tried to keep myself busy while here. I have a nice yellow lab that keeps me company, and living right on the trail, as you know, is really nice, and so we go walking down there all the time. So
that's great. Well, Alex, anything you want to add? I know we'll put up that website for more information. The folks can visit alextaftforcouncil.com and learn more about your candidacy there.
Right. Well, my main reason for running is to make the best place better. I think we've weathered the recession fairly well. We have a replacement for Macy's. We have a replacement for Smurfit Stone. We even have some jobs out there now, according to Missoula in the last week. And I think the council and the mayor have done a good job in running the city in these tough times. I think the projects that have been built, the downtown project here, the downtown streets project, the working with the university on the 5th-6th Arthur project that is just completed, that makes it a lot safer for pedestrians and bicyclists to get around. And passing the anti-discrimination ordinance, I think, was very important, so that people who come from all over the world to come to Missoula because of our great university feel comfortable when they're here. And I also think there was another item which is slipping my mind. Oh, the special improvement districts. Having a lot of city experience, I know that it's very tough for people to pay for the sidewalks. And you say, well, now wait a minute, the street's paid for by the city. The trees are, cut down and put up by the city, even though the owners have to pay for them. Why are we doing this? And in many cities, they've shifted to a sort of, let's pay this as a community. Right. So one neighborhood has a whole bunch of change, and other people in other neighborhoods are paying for it, but it's going to come to them eventually. So we all share in improving the city.
Right. I just wanted to explain to people watching, they may not know the acronym SID. So it stands for
Correct.
Special Improvement District, and the funding mechanism is such in a special improvement district that the members of those districts alone pay for the improvements. So people say, well, your sidewalk is old, you need $6,000, we're going to help you finance it, mind you. It's not exactly like Dark Bart is coming, but people have found special improvement districts, whether it's a sewer or a sidewalk, to be a burden. And the alternative model is talking about paying for that collectively rather than singling out that area.
And there's one more thing. If you back up the issue of, well, we have all these young people, they want to stay in Missoula, they go to school here, or they come here, they hear how great it is, the great outdoors, the way we preserve land, but they can't find housing and they can't find jobs. So if you back that up, you end up with an economic development problem. And I think the mayor's done a very nice job in creating a new initiative called the Best Place Project. And I'd like to help in any way I can into creating economic development, which creates jobs, which puts money in people's pockets so they can buy the housing that they need for their family. And we really attack that. We attack a housing issue. We attack a jobs issue with a good economic development program.
Great. Well, Alex, I want to thank you for coming by, sharing your views. I'm going to remind our viewers we're visiting with Alex Taft. He is a candidate for Ward 3 in this City Council election. You are going to have your opportunity to let your voice be heard through the mail. You're going to get a mail-in ballot. That should be in your house by October the 24th. If you have not received it, you're concerned about that, call the elections office at 258-4751. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this camping trail in the city of Missoula. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. We'll see you next time.